Are you frustrated because less qualified people are advancing quicker than you are?
Or maybe you're wondering, what do you need to do to be seen as a leader? Today's topic: stop waiting for permission to lead.
Welcome to the Influencer's Journey. My name is Suzanne Hart.
And I'm Taria Hodge.
This is the big question for today. How does the average entrepreneur like us, who started with limited time, zero marketing budget, and little to no presence, get their authentic message in the marketplace and become a person of influence?
And also, what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build a loyal following?
Good morning.
Good morning, Susan. Oh my gosh, I'm away from you.
Maria is back in the US after 5 weeks traveling from spot to spot in Canada. So yeah, it's kind of different.
Yeah, I know. Just like, oh wow.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for today's topic. You know, leadership is one of my favorite topics.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Partly because I have worked in a team setting. I've worked with teams almost my entire career, and in order to move from good to great in this whole concept of team lead or just working in
Mm-hmm.
teams, this is a huge topic.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I came face to face with this topic when I began working for myself. So moving from being paid at a job
Mm-hmm.
to either what some people like to call hunting what I kill, you know, and being able to have something to bring home. I gotta make the catch, and two very different things. So this conversation is going to be quite good. You know, when I started Taria on this journey, I'm going to go way back. And when
Mm-hmm.
I first started working, and I worked with a beautiful woman by the name of Joy LaPache. And Joy was one of those tough supervisors. Like people loved her and feared her at the same time.
Mm.
However, when you worked with her, you grew. And I remember I got placed on her team. Well, she recruited me, and she spent a significant amount of time recruiting me. She had a position that was built for me, believe it or not. And so when I started working with her, it was like, you know, when your brain just starts to expand because you're just
Yeah.
exposed to such amazing things. And so my thing was, I'm just going to be a sponge and I'm going to do
Soak
whatever
it
she
all
asks
up.
me to do.
Yep.
And so I would always be volunteering to do stuff.
Mm.
And it got to the point that when she would go on vacation, I would cover her cases. And I remember people telling me, you know, you're so silly. You're doing all this work for nothing. And you know, you're not getting paid. People are using you. They're taking advantage of you. And right now, and I'm young at this point.
Yeah.
And I just thought, no, I'm just learning so much and I don't have to pay for it. However, what happened, Taria, was every time there was an opportunity for advancement, my name would come up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the newbie on the block. And I don't have the PhD, nor do I have the master's, which is a lot of the team that was
Yeah.
around me. But I kept getting put forward for all these things. And this was the clincher, was when it came down to it. I had the experience, and I had also proven my leadership ability.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was leading where I stood, not knowing it at the time. And so people saw my work and they saw my capability. And she was confident putting my name forward. And it opened doors like crazy for me. And that's where I got my diversity, equity, and inclusion training as the youngest
Okay.
person in
Okay.
the province to receive that training. While everyone was a manager, there was this 20-some-year-old frontline worker that got to sneak into the room and become a certified trainer, all because I did the extra, leading where I stand.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening, to you share your story. And one of the things that it brings to mind for me was when back in the day when I used to be a telemarketer. So I used to work as a telemarketer for a home improvement company.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. And I'll just share with you. So, with telemarketing jobs, it's like the revolving doors of revolving doors.
Yeah.
People normally don't stay long in those types of positions. Just to say, let you know, I worked there for 7 years. The funny thing about it was we had a gentleman there by the name of Walter Woods, and Walter was the office trainer. And
Mm.
I remember people used to laugh at me and they used to, kid me all the time. Like, why are you paying, Walter any attention? The stuff that he's talking about is just foolishness. Nobody really needs that stuff.
Yeah.
But inside of me is like, I was so eager, to learn. I wanted to know not only how to get good at, my job, in being a telemarketer, because there was real money attached to it, but I wanted to become great. And so every time Walter had a training, I would be the first person there. I would sit right in the front. I had my notes. I would, you know, yeah, keener. And Walter just continued over the years to just pour, 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 pour into me. And it's like one of the most amazing things happened after Walter left. Instead of the owner of the company going outside to
Mhm.
hire another trainer, he hired me. He put me in the position to become the office trainer.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that is really so amazing, because it bumped me up from being a telemarketer, on the phone, to being able to, train the office. And
Mhm.
eventually I ended up becoming the assistant manager of the office. So it was
There
really
you go.
great experience when you talk about being able to show up where you are, and just have the ability to be open to learn everything and have others pour into you.
Well, it's not just being poured into, it's also having the initiative
Hmm.
to put yourself in those positions. And what's really interesting about the story I told was when how I got that job was I was working in the community at the time. I was working in the Black
Hmm.
community, and my reputation preceded me because I was this young go-getter, naive pot stirrer, for lack of a better word, who was just doing stuff. And Joy supervised my supervisor at this program, and she kept hearing about me.
Hmm.
And so she started to be curious about me. And so before I actually applied, they had actually designed a position for me.
Mm.
So now she was recruiting me, and
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why. This is the power of the topic we're talking about, is leadership. And most people think that they've got to wait till they get the title.
Hmm.
They got to wait till someone makes an offer. No, leadership is what you do with no title, no position, so that you rise above and people begin to recognize you. And that's where influence lives, is
Yes.
when people see you and say, I'm interested in what's going on over there. You become the bright line, as you say, you
Mhm.
shine.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to dive into this topic today. So, hello, good morning, everyone. And I see William Murray. Good morning. Thank
Hi,
you.
Mr. Murray. Good morning.
Of course, we see Cindy out there. I see Facebook user. I'm going to gamble and think that that might be Yetta. So if that's Yetta Decker, please let us know. But just by saying, yeah, it's me, girl. And hello, Avery. Wonderful
Great
to
morning, Avery.
hear you. We know that there's going to be people joining and people that we probably don't see that are out there. So as you come on, we're going to ask you to do a few things. First of all, please let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. Give StreamYard permission to show your name so we know exactly who you are. Also, let us know what you do while you're living. Right? What do you do, and who are you called to serve? And that is so key because this is our networking opportunity, and you never know who's going to be out there going through the live, looking through the comments, and find your information and say, "Ooh, I'm going to do some online networking," and reach out to that person, friend them, start a conversation. That's really how it works. So put your information out there. And the other thing we're going to ask you to do is get into the conversation. Light up the comment section, ask your questions, let us know what's landing for you, do your shout outs. If there's something we say that you're like, whoa, type it in the comment section, light it up, because that's what feeds us, and it just makes us know that we're in a two-way conversation here.
Yeah, awesome. And then also, I just want to just give a quick shout out, for all of our super achievers out there. And so, just if you are, we're streaming from several different places. So, if you are tuning in and you are catching us, on Facebook, and you are not a member of our Super Achievers Network, make sure you take a minute after the show, to join the Super Achievers Network. And I'm just going to say, go ahead and extend the invitation to the network to other super achievers that you know. And the same thing goes, if you're checking us out on LinkedIn. So I know we're streaming live on LinkedIn as well. And we have also opened up the doors to our Super Achievers Network on LinkedIn as well. So if you are watching us live or you're coming back and catching us on the replay, make sure that you knock on the doors of our communities. And the reason why we say this is because we continue the conversation throughout the week. And so you still have the opportunity to, listen, catch the replay, and then drop your questions, your comments, and just let us know your thoughts and your takeaways on what we share today.
All right. So we're going to get this party started. So for those of you who are joining us and just hopping on, welcome to the Influencer's Journey. My name is Suzanne Hart, and sitting down beside me is the beautiful Taria Hodge, social media strategist. And our topic today is stop waiting for permission to lead. I love this topic. How many of you out there is waiting for permission to lead?
Mm.
Now, I will say that this is so interesting. So I want to put into context what we mean by waiting for permission to lead. So you're waiting for the rank advancement, and you're saying, when I get this rank advancement, I am going to step into leadership and I'm going to move things forward. You are starting a new business, you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, and you haven't had success yet. And you're in your mind, you're thinking, when I get success, I will become a leader and people are going to take me seriously. That's waiting for permission to lead. I haven't made enough money yet, so I'm not really, in that place where people are going to take me seriously. That's waiting for permission to lead. So it's a conversation we have in our head about, when I do this, I will be this.
Mhm.
That really is this conundrum where we find ourselves waiting for permission to lead. So that's I wanted to just tee that up so all of us are on the same page. So the first question we're going to ask you, because this is the truth, why must each of us lead right where we stand?
Mm.
Definition: right where you stand means exactly where you are right this moment, whether you're sitting in your living room, whether you're at work, whether you're sitting in your car, whether you're up to something, right where you stand, with no position, no title, no nothing. That is the question.
So I like how you open it up, as whether you're still working on your 9 to 5, or you're an entrepreneur, you're waiting, for all of these things to happen before you can do XYZ. And it brought to mind for me, in my early days as an entrepreneur, and I always share, this story, like the first year that I stepped out on my journey was like absolutely a blur. I think I slept for the first year. But I remember when I made the decision, to step it up, because it's one of those things that I've heard that, most entrepreneurs go out of business within a year. And I
Mhm.
knew that I didn't want that to be me. So, one of the very first things that I did when I made that decision was I got an office space. So, a virtual office space. And
Mhm.
I showed up to that office space every single day as if I was going to a 9 to 5.
Mm.
And I remember um, Trevor Otts also shared the same office space. And that was the beginning of, us meeting and getting to know each other. And it was so interesting because what I remember him saying to me back in the day is, you show up here every day. So it's one of the things that he noticed that was different from a lot of other people who invested in the office space.
Mhm.
He's like, you're here every day. You get here every morning at 8 o'clock, and you are one of the last people to leave, the office space. And that began him, just first noticing and seeing that initiative to him saying, well, let me help you, with some of the things that you're doing. And I remember that was really my first introduction into online marketing. And
Mhm.
so that's where, I started just being able to, learn different systems because, I showed the initiative to show up and then was eager to learn the things too. And so I don't think that there was anything that he ever showed me at that time. And I always tell people this: at that time, I didn't know technology. I was that person who was scared of technology at the time, but was just eager to learn, wanted to learn it. And what I realized, the more that I showed that type of initiative, the more opportunities came my way.
Absolutely. And I think that is exactly how it works. And so part of what we're talking about is showing up in a way where your habits and behaviors
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate something about your character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know for myself, one of the things that I look for in leadership is leaders have initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will take action even when they don't know what to do, even when no one else is taking action, even when the path isn't clear. They're going to be the ones out there going, I'm going to get out there and make the pathway.
Right.
Leaders have vision, and leaders will cast a vision of possibility and say, I have an idea, let me cast it out there
Mhm.
and make it real, but give it life. And notice there's no how. It's like I am going to create. I create first in my mind, then through my speaking, and then I put it into the world and I make it a reality. Leaders are committed. They will start something, and it's not until tired, not until
Right.
frustrated, not until I don't know, but until completed. They are persistent, they are consistent, they have initiative, they have a high level of integrity, and all this comes together to create a character of somebody that people start
Mhm.
to look at and say, this person is going somewhere. And I think one of the distinctions is leaders are doers
Yeah.
in the absence of clear paths.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders are doers when change and transformation is required. And so the question is, are you stepping into leadership, or are you the person sitting on the sideline saying, I don't know how, and until someone shows me how, I really can't move. I don't see the pathway until someone shows me the pathway. I really can't move. I don't see the answer. And until someone tells me the answer, tells me what to do, I'm just going to plant myself right here and just do what I know. And that's the catch 22 that most people fall into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They do what they know, and then they wonder why people are not looking at them for the future. Well, you're not casting anything into the future.
Yeah.
You're not saying, I have potential to handle something bigger than I am right now. Are you guys getting the difference? This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
leadership.
yeah, and it is so true, and that's what it really requires, for you to have the courage, and that's what I'm hearing, that you're saying is like that's what leaders do when they take a look at, where they want to go, or there's a path that needs to be charted. Do you have the courage, to step into that despite whatever and figure it out?
And that's the big one, and figure it out.
Hmm.
And one of the things I've always said to anyone I've worked with, I say leadership is messy, just so you know. When you get into it, it's messy. It's extremely rewarding, but it's messy. And what I mean by messy is you're going to fail, you're going to course correct. You're going to look bad. You're going to get stuck in I don't know, and then you're going to have to figure it out. You're
Yeah.
going to take a step forward, and then you're going to probably take 2 steps backward to get to the next place. You're going to go off in the wrong direction, and then that wrong direction is going to teach you something that gets you back on track. It is that thing. And on top of that, you're charting a path with the possibility of inviting people along. That's a level of responsibility that I'm not sure everyone is up to,
Mm,
right?
mm,
I'm not sure everyone is up to because I, you know, um, you notice how we like to be able to blame somebody when things go wrong.
mm.
We like to be able to point the finger over there and say, well, my boss, my manager, this person told me to do it, or they didn't tell me what to do. Leaders are those individuals that say, I'm just going to make a decision, and I
Yeah.
will take responsibility for failure or success. I will take responsibility for what happens. However, I truly believe that if we go off in this direction, we will get what we need. We will create the change that's required. It's a different beast.
Mm. So that brings a beautiful question to mind, for me, and it's one of the things that you know um, I've often thought about. So, are leaders born or are leaders created?
Ooh, that's a great question. I
Mm-hmm.
would I would say that leaders are created,
Mm.
and I think that any person can step into leadership if they choose to do the work to do so. Now, that being said, I think there are people that are naturally inclined to lead. It's just the way they be. I remember I've been the captain of every team I've been on, and I remember once upon a time I joined a cheerleading squad. Now, I joined the cheerleading squad because I was working and I just wanted to stay in shape. And their workouts were like beastly. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to keep me in shape. I really don't want to be doing anything. Even when I didn't try, I ended up being chosen as the captain.
Uh,
Okay. So, there's some, like, there's leaders that are, they're just their natural way of being. That being said, I still don't think it's a natural way of being. It is how I'm committed to grow myself.
mm,
So oftentimes people will say that leaders are natural leaders because they're looking at what leaders do to other people.
mm,
When we think of leadership, we think of leading other people.
right.
The reason it appears as natural is because the person you're looking at has done the work to lead themselves. Because I truly believe that the first person I ever lead is myself. I actually believe the only person I lead is myself because I'm the only person I have control over. And if I lead myself brilliantly and masterfully, and I develop the character that people can count on, I create this thing called influence, and then people choose to follow because they're attracted to who I'm being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I still think it's not born, it's developed. I have to work on me in order for this to happen.
Yeah. And I love it because it just brings to mind, I was that person before, that, thought that leadership was something that was affected on, other people. And it was that thing for me that, oh my gosh, resisted. Like, I don't want that pressure. But I remember the first time, I heard you train, and you really broke down the definition of leadership. And I love how you say it is not what we, affect, on others. It's truly how we lead ourselves. It
Mhm.
really gave me a different way of taking a look at the word and saying, well, this is the focus here. How am I going to lead myself? What are the things that I need to do, in order to, to grow into certain spaces, like you said, to be innovative, to be able to chart courses, to move forward, figure things out, all of those things.
Mhm.
And what I love about it is that you just broke down the definition of influence, because that's what it is. Influence is the ability for us to be able to magnetically attract, people to us and inspire them to action. And the only way that we're able to inspire them, to action, is because we're brilliantly taking those action ourselves. We're charting the course
Yeah.
and the path, for them. So I
You know,
love
you just brought us right into the next question. I think
it.
we should look at is why true leaders don't need a title, and I think you're really breaking it down right now. Is that the reason true leaders don't need titles is because it's a beingness.
Hmm.
And so I watch people who have positional power, and they have the power that comes from the position, manager, director, leader, sometimes team
Hmm.
leader, all those things. And they pull their right to lead and their power from the title. The question is, what happens when the title is not
Yeah.
there, or what happens when you lean on the title too much?
Right.
Well, actually, I believe that you're not leading at all. You're managing people. Managers tell people what to do. They make sure people hit deadlines. They check boxes, all those different things. Leaders are innovative. Leaders are transformation agents. Leaders are change agents. It's a different game. And so the reason I believe you don't need a title to lead is because leadership is something I do to me,
Hmm. There you go.
right? And so therefore my desire to grow, my desire to have more initiative, my desire to expand, my desire to become more is something I do to me. However, how effectively I do it to me
Right.
will impact, inspire, and infect
Yes.
other people. And then they say, ooh, me too.
Yeah.
Ah, I'm going to go over there. Ooh, this thing, I want this. And so for those of you that are new to your endeavor, entrepreneurial, solopreneur, all those things, it's how you get people looking at you is really around how effectively you personally lead yourself in the area of expertise. So, is your character one someone can count on? So, do you have fantastic habits? Are you mastering and growing the skills of the profession you chose to put your businesses? Are they seeing you evolve? I like to call it the Apple effect, right? New
Yeah.
phone, new phone, new phone, new phone. Are you doing that personally? Is your energy one where you're
Right.
positive, uh, not caught up in your emotions, consistent and persistent?
Yeah.
And do you have the ability to develop relationships rather than just create leads? Do you have the ability to get to know people and allow them to get to know you in a way where they say, I have a desire to spend more time with this person. I like how this person's showing up in the world. And do they see you up to something bigger than them and bigger than you?
I love it. Mm. Love it, love it, love it. So, next question. So, why is this piece, leadership, the key to lasting success and
Ah,
money?
So this, I think this Cheerio was one of my biggest learns.
Mm.
And let me, I'm thinking of an example. Okay. Michael, Michael Jordan. No, let's look at Kobe Bryant. I
Okay.
like, I
You
like
like
Kobe
Kobe?
Bryant. I love me some Kobe. So let's look at Kobe Bryant. So Kobe comes into the NBA, a young unknown, and his way of being, his attitude, has him grow and begin to develop as a leader in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at some point, he could have plateaued because he's an awesome player, fantastic, one of the top in the league. But
Mm-hmm.
Kobe doesn't do that. He says, I am going to be the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so he continues to lead Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
First, what does Kobe do? He does his first practice at 4 or 3 or some crazy hour in the morning. I think it's 4 in the morning. I'm gonna do my first practice at 4 in the morning. And if I do my first practice at 4 in the morning every day, I will be hours ahead in training than any other player in the NBA. He does his second practice, he does his third practice, he shoots, he studies the game like no other player. He's leading himself. And as a result, he's evolving beyond what anybody saw possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he becomes the best player. So Kobe retires. You would think we're not hearing about Kobe no more. He retired. No, he's like, ball isn't the thing. I'm going to develop a company. I'm going to coach. I'm going to lead. I'm going to write books. And so he's continuously evolving. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason we don't forget about him is because we're watching transformation number one,
Right.
transformation number two, transformation number three, transformation number four. Now, if I look at another great one, Magic Johnson. So I had the privilege of meeting Magic Johnson, sharing the stage, all that wonderful stuff. What was interesting was Magic talked about his basketball career for a few minutes. Then
Mm-hmm.
he talked about his business endeavors, number one, number two. And what we see is we are expanding with him. And
Right.
because he keeps evolving, we don't forget about him. Now think of other players who've had the same opportunities, privileges, whatever. They've gone into the sunset and we don't talk about them, think
Mm-hmm.
about them, know about them.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that, like you said, is that thing when you sit and you really unpack it, when we take a look at different people in different spaces, like right now you're talking about athletes. One of the things that came to my mind as we were speaking, look at entertainers. So you
Mhm.
have, some entertainers out there where they might have a hit for a season, and then you're wondering, like, oh, what happened to them? But you look at other entertainers like a Beyonce or Jay-Z, who are continuously pushing the envelope, and then they're not scared to step out of their arena and try new things and
Yeah,
try courses, and then bring others along with them as well, and inspire other people to step out. So I just love it. As we're
mhm.
talking about this, it's such a great topic. It's like the four biggest takeaways that I've gotten of what we shared. Number one, you don't need to have a title to be a leader. And I
Heck
think
no.
one of the things that has to be said here is that true leaders are born from challenges and tough times. So it's only when well, I shouldn't say only when, but oftentimes when we're faced with those tough challenges is how we bring ourselves through those challenges, also inspire other people to say, wow, this is a person that I need to look at. This is a person that I'm attracted to or I'm attached to, because I love how they move through adversity. And
Absolutely.
mhm. And then the third thing that I'm hearing you say, which is so important, is that leadership is also about building relationships as well. As so we continue to, work on ourselves, how are we interacting with others and building our relationships? And that's a key to strengthening your relationship as well. And then just lastly, just continue to work on yourself and be the best that you could be.
I think that is the key. It is, one of the principles in lifelong learning
Mm-hmm.
is one of the principles in mindset mastery is lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's such a key one is it's the constant evolution. It's the constant commitment to make yesterday's best
Yeah.
better today. And it is growth, like incremental steps in different areas of our life, day in, day out, consistent and persistent. And when we do that, we are in constant evolution and transformation. This is what I know. People are less interested in where I am.
Mm. Yep.
They are inspired by where I'm
Where you
going.
going? Yeah.
So for me, what I tell myself is that boredom, depression, no fun happens when Suzanne stands in the same place too long.
Mm.
It's boring for me and it's boring for everyone around me because what happens? I keep telling the same story about what happened because I have nothing else to talk about because I'm standing in the same place too long.
Yeah.
The minute I take on change, transformation, growth, expansion, I become energized. And because I have new information, new growth, new awareness, new challenges, the people around me become energized. So I remind myself that people aren't interested in where I am. That's old news.
Yeah. I love
People
it.
are inspired by where I'm going. So leaders are people who cast massive visions, and it's visions that take your breath away. It's visions that scare you. It's visions that make your heart beat, and it's visions that have you stand in that space of fear and excitement. And we talk about it all the time. So those two energies existing at the same time. However, you choose to decide that you're excited because you know underneath it is that constant fear of, oh my gosh, I'm up to something big. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm up to it. That
Yes.
that's the stuff. And when you are too content, you're not leading anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you don't spend time there because we can't also always be in that space. However, when you're up to something, the energy
Yeah.
in you shifts. And I know for myself, I'm like, God, really? Here we grow.
And we grow again.
Can I just have a day? Now, really? If he gives me too many days, I'm just like, okay, come on, what's up? It's an energy. And
Yeah.
that energy is what inspires and affects people. This is why most of the world spends their time standing still
Yeah.
in the same place too long. That is why most people watch how many hours of TV a week.
Hmm.
That's why we have people spending hours on social media. That's why, because most of the world, the average person reads 4 books after they graduate school. They spend all their
Wow.
time watching TV. They do all these things because the average person isn't growing, isn't taking on big things. So when you meet someone who's up to something big, you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
that's where leadership lives.
Yeah.
And that's where our success lives.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm just going to take a minute to shout out, our super achievers this morning. So I'm just going to say with fabulous comments. I could see them coming in. Leaders are doers in the absence of a clear path. I don't know who that is that put that in there, but if you still are listening, go ahead, drop your name so I can know who you are so I could shout you out. Leadership is developed. I see we have Jaliva Carr out there. Thank you,
Hey, Julia.
Geneva, for letting us know who you serve and how you serve in your business. And then, um, one of the things that I'm reading here is someone is agreeing with you. That's when I get totally depressed. That's a huge nugget. And so it's like, yeah, when we're standing still and we're not up to big things, and we allow ourselves to stop in the creativity department. So it's like, how are you being creative? How are you moving forward? Like, what's your next big thing that you're working on? When that leaves us, then it's like we have nowhere to go, and then we become stagnant. And so someone is agreeing to that point. And then also we have another Facebook user out there who's saying, I love how you share what needs to be shared with those we lead. Energy equals growth.
Mm-hmm. I love. Oh, those are great
Oh,
comments.
yeah. Our super achievers are out there this morning.
Leading the path in the
Mhm.
comment section. All right, so Taria, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
What has been your biggest challenge when it comes to leadership?
Biggest challenge, I must say, is just exactly what it is that we're talking about when it comes to, just being like on the innovative part and then moving forward. Sometimes, if I'm totally honest, it is scary. You have to have the courage to be able to step out there and move, number one, and even to do things that are different, things that are outside of the norm. How can you zig when everybody else is zagging, or how can you zag when everybody else is zigging? And I think for and this is a good question to ask our super achievers out there, like, how do they deal with that? Because as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we are required to do is be visionaries
Absolutely.
and chart your course. And I know one of the things that scared me for a long time is to, be in a space and then you're looking at things and you go like, no, that's not quite true. That doesn't work, the way you say it works. And having the courage to go ahead and not just do something different, but put the voice out there to do something different. And it's I was having that conversation yesterday with another colleague, of mine. Like when I decided to make some shifts in my business, a lot of people in the beginning initially was just like, no, that's not going to work. I'm not going to do that. And it would have been easy for me to
Yeah.
just retreat back into the norm and the things that everybody else in the space is doing. But deep down inside, I felt, no, that there's a different way, there's a better way. And to be able to stick with that and attract the right people to it. And then here we are, almost, what, 3 years later, and I'm just like, wow. And I got into a conversation yesterday of someone who who started to share the same idea, and I was just like, oh wow, that's really interesting. That's what I felt 3 years ago, and that's why I made
Mhm.
made the shift. And that's what the stuff is really all about. So that's the thing. It's being able to have the courage to step out on that limb and move when nobody else is moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initiative.
And so I have a
Tough one.
question for you.
Okay.
And my question for you is, how do you stay ahead?
Well, I think I kind of touched on it. And so there's two pieces for me. One is when I find myself standing in the same place too
Mhm.
long, I do get bored. I do lose energy. And doubt actually starts to set in. And doubt is in terms of how relevant am I?
Mhm.
How relevant am I to myself? It's that piece. I think the other part is I stay relevant through curiosity.
Mm.
So so if anyone has worked with me, I'm always writing and I'm always recreating. So every time I teach a program, I learn. Every
Mhm.
time I read a book, I learn. Every time I sit down with someone and have a
Wow.
discussion worth having, like I had a discussion with Yetta the other day. Thank you, Yetta. Mind blowing, like synergy growth. It was
Mhm.
fantastic. We learned.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff I then take and put into my programs
Yeah.
because I believe that for me to continue to lead a process, I have to stay ahead of the process.
Yeah.
So everybody knows Suzanne reads 30 minutes every day, minimum,
Mhm.
about 40 books a year. And for some people, that's not a lot, but for me, that's a lot. I read slow and I study. And so for others, it might be like, what, 40? So I read about 40
Mhm.
books a year and I study and I take notes and I put it into my program. Why is that happening? Because I believe that my craft requires constant growth. It requires constant new information. It requires constantly
Right.
different perspectives. It requires expansion. So how I keep to stay ahead is I remain curious and I remind myself that I don't know what I don't know. So go
Yeah.
looking for it. Every time I have a sticking point, I ask a question, I find the answer. When a client asks me a question, if I don't have the answer, I go digging for it. When there's a curiosity, I go looking for it. And it's this constant growth because I'm in mindset, I'm in thinking. It's
Yeah.
it's like nonstop down the rabbit hole. That's my work.
Yeah.
So I can stay ahead by just being nonstop in the
Mm-hmm.
rabbit, coming
Yeah.
back and going, look what I found.
But yeah, but that's the stuff, and I think that that's the great joy, not only in life, I mean in business, but also in life. Like, how do you just maintain that curiosity and just seek to always grow and learn more?
And I really want to put this to everyone's that's listening because it's such a key thing. And I don't see people doing it. Whatever you decide to be an expert in, that is your craft, that is your space. How much studying are you doing? Are you studying a little bit every day to move that craft forward? Or are you saying, you know what, I'm in this, I'm good, I know what I'm doing? Then the world is leaving you behind because remember the world isn't standing still. We are in a global economy that's moving at warp speed,
Yes.
constant changing, and if you're not constantly looking for the new information and growing, you're going to stand up and look and go, whoa, the world has passed me by.
You buy.
and
Uh-huh.
and so there's this constant need for us to be pouring into ourselves to stay relevant and stay ahead.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. And that's the key. And that's exactly what it is. And I see that Regina is out there and she says, it feels like it's okay, like permission to be curious and not stand still and
Yeah,
or sit still.
absolutely, absolutely. We got to keep it moving.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, Suzanne, share with our super achievers what are the three things that they need to know if you are struggling with leadership?
One is you're brilliant, that
Mm,
you're special, and the world is waiting for what it is that you need to put into. So that's just a backdrop. So the first thing is leadership is simply a decision.
mhm.
It's not a qualification. It's not a title. It's not a position. Those are very different. You can be a leader and have a title, but it's not required. So leadership is a decision. So right now, today, in this moment, all is required of you is to decide to lead.
Yeah.
And why that is so key is because the only person you're leading is yourself. So decide to lead. Secondly, is to realize that the first and only person you lead is yourself. What that means is it requires that you begin to examine your character. How am I known? What are my habits? Are my habits moving me forward or are my habits keeping me standing still? And do I have some habits that are having me lose ground?
Yeah.
Am I constantly sharpening the saw? Are my skills getting better? Am I staying relevant in my profession? Am I constantly learning and growing and expanding in the craft I have chosen? The other part of that equation is how do I manage my emotional state? Are events, things, fears making decisions for me and knocking me out of the game? Or
That's
am
so
I
true.
able to take action in the face of those fears, doubts, concerns, I don't know, frustrations? And finally, how good am I at building and developing great relationships and business relationships? Because business relationships are very different. The expectations are very different than personal relationships. So that's the thing, because that's where we lead ourselves. That's what we have control over. What is being asked of you? And are you showing up as a shining light, a difference maker, a visionary, a leader in the marketplace, or just in your life in general? And trust, this is step 3, trust that the byproduct of leading yourself boldly, leading yourself with mastery, becoming someone that you are inspired by, is influence. People follow those individuals who have a high level of mastery, a character they can count on, and who are up to big things. They have a massive vision, because when you have a massive vision, you can't do it by yourself. Why do people follow? Because they want to be part of it. They want to be a contributor to that vision. They want to go where you're going. That's the thing. 3 key things. And it all starts with you, and you need nothing other than the decision to do
Yeah.
so.
I love it. And I just have to say, you know, that's one of the blessings, you know, for me on this journey, is to be able to unpack and take a look at, you know, leadership from a whole totally different perspective. And so in continuing to work with you, you know, I get a chance to dig deep into all of these different, you know, areas. And like I said, it's been so interesting, it's been so juicy. And you know, just being able to, you know, have the ability to just have the zest to move forward and innovate and have creative thinking. I love it. And go
It,
ahead, you were
no,
about to say something.
I was going to say, one of the reasons I love this topic and why I think it's
Mhm,
so powerful, because it's the source of a profound life. It
mhm,
is a source of just difference in your life. It is a source of transformation. It is a source of a life that's continuously changing, growing, and expanding.
mhm.
It's so, and at the same time, it's challenging. It'll stretch you. It'll have you cry. It'll make you laugh. It'll upset you. It'll bring out so much. Remember I said it's messy.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
worth it though.
yeah.
Because you feel, don't you, do you feel so alive?
Yeah. That's the thing. And I have a question. I see that we have like a very interesting question, you know, that's out here from one of our super achievers. And once again, I apologize because your name isn't showing. So I'm gonna say it's Regina. And the question is, if you've been stagnant, how do you know when to jump in?
Mm. If you've been stagnant, that's your clue to jump in.
Mm,
And it sounds counterintuitive, because leaders don't wait for a reason outside of themselves. Leaders don't wait for someone to say you need to jump. Leaders intuitively know it's time to move. So if you feel stagnant,
that
it's
rub.
time, that rub that, it's time to jump in.
Yeah,
And you may say, well, I don't know where to jump. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Do something.
yeah,
It's in the doing something
yes,
that what you need to do is revealed. It's in the doing something that stretches you that you're going to get back in touch with the character, the habits, the way of being that you like about yourself.
yeah,
In doing something, it's going to shift your attitude and move your energy. And then what's going to happen is whatever you're supposed to be doing will be revealed.
yeah,
Remember, one of the things I said is that leadership is messy because we're often off. When we start, we're charting the wrong course. However, charting the wrong course is movement. And in charting the wrong course, you're going to bang into, I mean, Avery's listening. He has this conversation with us. He was charting the wrong course, but in charting the wrong course, he banged into
right.
something that told him he was in the wrong direction, and he shifted. But now he gets to bring all that lesson and learn with him as he shifts.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're stagnant, that's the clue. Do something.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what to do, go support, serve, help somebody else. How can
Yeah.
I serve you? You're moving in a direction I love. I'm inspired. How can I serve you? In the middle of that,
Yeah.
you'll probably figure out.
Yeah, and like I said, and that's the courage piece, you know, because I think a lot of times we're we sit and we trying to wait for everything to line up, and it's not about waiting for everything to line up. It's to step out there, take that step, make that move, and have the faith, like you said, and know that the steps are going to be revealed to you. So
Yeah.
great question. That question came
Excellent
from
question.
Stephanie. So thank you, Stephanie,
Hey,
for putting
Stephanie. Good
that
to hear
question
you.
out there.
All right. So, Tria, what is the thought of the week that we are leaving people with?
Okay, so our thought of the week is become the CEO of our own roles and leaders within our current position. We
Ooh,
all need to lead where we are planted and shine where we now find ourselves. And that comes from the leader with no title.
my favorite book.
Yes, by Robin Sharma. If you don't know, and if you have not read that book, is definitely a must read. Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma.
All right. So we are at the top of the hour, almost at the top of the hour. Tria, is there any reminders that our super achievers need to know?
Yeah, once again, for our super achievers, if you are not a member of our super achievers network, I know we're streaming several different places. So if you're not a member of our community, head on over to Super Achievers Network. You could do that on Facebook. Just type it in, knock on the door. We will let you in and invite others. Take the opportunity to, just acknowledge those other people who are in your space, in your circle, who would love to be a part of this conversation every week. Invite them to join the network. And if you're catching us on LinkedIn, we have now opened up our doors to our Super Achievers Network on LinkedIn as well. So if that's your preferred place to connect and network on social, just go ahead and connect with us there. We are talking about leaders and being up to big things. We are preparing, for our upcoming Unleash the Power of Your Story program. So, super achievers, look out for details coming up for that as well. And I see I have another question. Will this recording be in the community? And the answer is yes. So that's one of the benefits that you get from being a part of the community. All of our episodes for our shows live inside of our community. So you can not just catch the replay on this one, you could catch our replays on the other ones as well. So thank you for asking that
And,
question.
and in addition, the other really interesting thing is as we continue the conversation, you're going to get
Mhm.
questions and thoughts that came out of this
Right.
conversation that will be helpful. You'll get some of our answers, you'll get some of our additional thoughts as they become individual posts. So this conversation is just starting today. It continues throughout the week. So definitely go knock on the door, let yourself in, and continue the conversation. Ask your questions because we are happy to get them answered. So, as we part, what we want you to remember is to know you are brilliant, know you are oh so special, and the world is waiting for your unique gift. Blessings, and we will see you back here next week.
All right. Thank you. Take
Take
care,
care.
everyone. Bye bye.